The Haunting Winter Walk. Many years later, my wife's grandmother told us a story that still haunts me. 15 years ago, she had been volunteering at the library. It was winter, and the days were short. By the time the library closed, the sky was already dark. That evening, she had been offered a ride home, but she refused. "I need the exercise," she had said. Her house was only a mile away, a short walk through a quiet wooded stretch of road. As she walked, she noticed someone behind her, a man, moving in the same direction. At first, she thought nothing of it. She was old, and people walked faster than her. But then she realized he wasn't just walking, he was following her. He stayed just far enough behind to avoid suspicion, but close enough that she could feel his presence. Step after step, he gained on her. Her heart pounded. She could see her house now, her porch light glowing in the distance. She always left it on so it would look like someone was home, just 50 yards more. Then, a hand clamped down on her shoulder. "Don't turn around," a low voice whispered. "Hand over your purse or I'll cut you." For a brief moment, she froze. Then, in a single motion, she pulled the .38 revolver from her purse and fired. The bullet tore into the man's neck. He staggered back, gurgling, before collapsing onto the pavement. He spent 5 years in a prison hospital before dying from complications. My wife's grandmother passed away last year, but she always lamented one thing. "I pulled the trigger too soon," she had said. "I should have waited until I could see his eyes." The night everything changed. I was 10 when I moved in with my dad. It was a quiet neighborhood, the kind where everyone knew each other. But I didn't know anyone, except for one family my dad was friends with, a single mother with 3 kids. One of them was a girl, a little older than me, 12 when I first met her. We got along well enough, though we were never really close. Over time, we ended up with the same friends. But I'll never forget the night everything changed. That night, my friend Rob was hanging out with her and her younger brother. Their mother was at work, leaving them alone in the house. It was supposed to be just another ordinary evening. The 3 of them were in the living room, the dim glow of the television flickering against the walls. They weren't expecting anyone. Then came the knock at the door. Lisa, assuming it was her mom, opened it without a second thought. Rob, realizing he wasn't supposed to be there, panicked and jumped out the window running home. He didn't look back. He didn't think twice. But it wasn't Lisa's mother at the door. It was a woman with hollow eyes and a twisted smile. Lisa's mom had been helping a woman through her work, getting to know her over time. That woman had a sister, one who had recently been released from a mental institution. No one realized she had been listening. No one knew she had pieced together where Lisa's family lived when they were alone, when the house would be vulnerable. Lisa's younger brother managed to escape. He ran to the neighbor's house, pounding on the door, screaming for help. The police were called, but it was too late. Lisa was found in the bathtub, brutally murdered. She had been decapitated. They found her head hidden somewhere in the house, though I never wanted to know where. It was a week before Christmas. I wasn't allowed to go to the funeral, but I remember. The mysterious white SUV, the silent figure in the driver's seat, the blacked-out windows, and the feeling my sister had that if she had gotten too close, she wouldn't have lived to tell the story. That night, we were all stuck at home. My parents were inside, and my sister stepped out to smoke. I went with her like I always did. It had been months since the last time we saw the white SUV, and we had almost convinced ourselves that it was gone for good. Then, like clockwork, it appeared again. The dark-tinted windows, the silent presence, just sitting there, watching. My sister's face went pale. This time she didn't hesitate. She turned to me, voice urgent. "Run inside, get Dad." I bolted through the front door, calling for my father. When he heard me, his face darkened. and he didn't waste a second. He grabbed his gun and stormed outside, his pace brisk, his grip tight. He didn't raise the weapon, but he held it firm, making his way down the driveway, heading straight for the SUV. The second he got too close, the vehicle peeled out. Tires screeched against the pavement as it shot down the road, disappearing onto the highway. My dad, being a cop, took in everything, the make, the model, the year, every identifying mark. But the worst part? The license plate was covered in duct tape. Whoever had been watching us for all that time had gone to great lengths to stay hidden. We never saw that SUV again. But the fear it left behind? That never really went away. The mystery of the missing phone.
The silent phone call. It was Friday night, and my friend was picking me up for a hockey game. We were running late, so I hurried out of the house, jumping into his car without a second thought. It wasn't until halfway through the ride that I realized something. I didn't have my phone. I searched the seat, the floor, my pockets. Nothing. I figured I had just left it at home. But during the game, a gnawing sense of unease settled in my gut. What if I had dropped it somewhere? So I borrowed my friend's phone and stepped into the bathroom to call my number. After 3 rings, someone picked up. But they didn't say anything. I frowned. Oh, who's this? I tried again. Hey, I think I left my phone at home. Who is this? Nothing. After a moment, I sighed, assuming it was my little brother messing with me, and hung up. I got home late that night, expecting to find my family there, but the house was empty. Confused, I called my parents. They answered and told me they had gone out for dinner and a concert right after I left for the game. My stomach twisted. They hadn't been home all night. I slowly turned, dread curling around my spine. If they hadn't been home, then who the hell picked up my phone? That's when I heard it. The back door creaking open, and then closing again. I didn't hesitate. I bolted out the front door and ran straight to my neighbor's house, dialing 911 with shaking hands. When the police arrived, they found the back door unlocked. Nothing was stolen, no signs of forced entry, just a single unsettling fact. Someone had been inside my house, and they had answered my phone. The monster in the closet. A while back, a new family moved in next door. They had a teenage son, a twisted one. He was obsessed with slasher movies, always pressuring me to tell him war stories from my time in Vietnam. But the worst part? He loved tormenting animals. I hated that kid. At the time, I had a 7-year-old daughter and he was 19, but he always wanted to talk to her. He'd stop her on the way home from school. He'd talk to her over the fence while she played outside. But the final straw? One night, he called our house specifically asking to speak to her. That was it. I marched over to his house and flipped out, told him to stay the hell away from my daughter. His parents apologized, promising they'd keep him away. But then things got weird. My daughter had always been imaginative, prone to paranoia. She'd complain about monsters under her bed, normal kid stuff. Then she started talking about something in her closet. She refused to get up at night, said it was only there when it was dark. We brushed it off. A few weeks later, my wife and daughter went to my mother's house for a girls' night. I stayed home. At 2 a.m., my phone rang. It was the neighbor's dad. His voice was tense. Our son is missing. We need help looking for him.